Good Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Morgan Wolf. Let's get to our top stories of the day, starting with a developing one in the South Metro. One person is dead after being hit by a construction vehicle in Burnsville. State Patrol says that a contractor was walking in the construction zone and was hit by the vehicle on southbound Highway 35 and Highway 13. No other vehicles were involved in this incident, according to authorities. State Patrol is investigating exactly what happened here. Just in this afternoon, Brian Pippett will be a free man. The Board of Pardons voted today 2-1 to commute his murder conviction, meaning that he will be freed but not exonerated. Last year, the Attorney General's Conviction Review Unit argued that Pippett is innocent in the 1998 murder of an 84-year-old store owner after his lawyer brought forth new evidence and several witnesses recanted. The board made up of the Attorney General, Chief Justice, and Governor warned this case could now set a precedent, but they still voted 2-1 that Pippett will be on parole once he is released. New today, the first charges in a massive scheme to steal taxpayer money meant to help people with autism. Asha Hazan charged now by Information Today with wire fraud. The U.S. Attorney's Office says that she had a role in stealing $14 million from the Early Intensive Developmental and Behavioral Intervention Benefit, a Minnesota healthcare program. Investigators say that she and her partners at Smart Therapy submitted millions of dollars worth of claims from 2019 to 2024 that were inflated and hired unqualified people to work with children who have autism. The attorney's office says that the company would also recruit parents whose children did not have autism to enroll in that program, then pay them monthly kickbacks when they enrolled with Smart Therapy. Developing right now in Texas, 2 people are dead after a shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas. The alleged shooter is among the dead and died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, according to investigators. This is now the second attack on a Texas immigration detention center since July 4th. Jay Gray is in Dallas with the details.
Well, we've got an update on exactly what's going on here in Dallas with the shooting at an ICE detention facility here. I can tell you that 2 people are dead at the scene. One of those, the gunman, who apparently turned a weapon on himself, and the other we haven't had identified at this point. We know that 4 people overall were shot. What we've been told by local law enforcement is that none of those who were shot are law enforcement, either federal or local law enforcement officers. So still waiting some confirmation on that. We know that this happened in the early morning hours, and the shots apparently fired from a rooftop next to this facility that is really an area where it's a field office. They bring people in for booking and then move them once they are arrested, or it's where other immigrants come for regular routine check-ins. And so that was happening this morning as well. We are told from inside the facility there was chaos as the shots rang out, panic, a lot of people there, a lot of families there, so a lot of people worried about what was unfolding. We also know that this is the second attack on an ICE facility in this North Texas area within the last several months here. FBI continuing the investigation here along with Dallas police. Will continue to monitor things as well. For now, though, that's the situation here in Dallas. I'm Jay Gray, NBC News.
For the first time, the Robbinsdale School Board is hearing recommendations to fix its financial crisis. The district is facing a $21 million deficit and will likely close several schools. Jennifer Hoff has a closer look at the strategies now on the table.
A new school year has started, but the Robbinsdale School Board is confronting old problems, staring down a $21 million deficit and hearing recommendations for the first time about how to turn it around, led in part by Joan Malene Evans.
We had work to do and felt the work was important.
She's one of dozens in a new community group meeting for the last 8 months to reimagine Ardale for its 10,000 students over 5 years.
It's a big lift, but the community, I think, is going to demand it.
The group finding enrollment is down 2,000 students from a decade ago. Such outdated facilities improvements would cost more than $200 million and lagging test scores in every category. Tasked to also figure out how to fix that, presenting a nearly 40-page report to the board, the superintendent calling the process collaborative.
I've never entered a process so open to trusting that the outcome would be based on the collective.
The group's suggestions are wide-ranging, including building one new high school rather than having two, closing up to 3 middle schools and 6 elementary schools, and focusing on arts and science programming. Decisions ultimately up to the board that Moline Evans describes as difficult, radical, and necessary.
I think the real question is will the board have a strong vision for the future?
Right now, a daycare center in Savage is temporarily closed and their license is currently suspended after 2 infants were treated for breathing problems. One of those infants, a 10-month-old, died. The other required emergency medical care. Rocking Horse Ranch Childcare is located on Louisiana Avenue about 30 minutes south of Minneapolis. Savage police say that the daycare is cooperating with their investigation right now. Detectives are not giving us further details, though. The Department of Human Services is also tight-lipped, and the daycare didn't respond to our interview requests. The best lens we have into this case right now is what other parents are telling us.
I didn't know that until I saw the report at the DHS site or something, So it's kind of like, yeah, we would like some information. We're kind of in the dark. We're in the dark too.
Yeah, and that was Caitlin that I spoke to yesterday. She told me that there was supposed to be an open house this week for other parents where they would get to know one another. So a lot of these parents are feeling really in the dark at the moment. We did some digging, though, and we found some records that show multiple violations from the last year at Rocking Horse, including hazardous objects within kids' reach and lack of personal hygiene products. Those issues were corrected by June of this year. Turning now to the legal battle over a homeless encampment. A judge is issuing a temporary restraining order for Hamoudi Sabri, keeping him from setting up encampments on his Minneapolis properties. It comes after a mass shooting on his property and several health and safety citations. In a statement to KARE 11 last evening, Sabri says that he is planning his legal strategy at the moment, but also says that he plans to, quote, hold the city accountable for its profound dereliction of duty and care in public health and safety. Meanwhile, a Minneapolis spokesperson tells us the city is pleased with the judge's decision and plans to keep working to provide help and resources as needed. Right now, the clock is ticking in Washington as Congress now has just 1 week to avoid a government shutdown at the end of the month. One key issue in the negotiations involves health care and an Affordable Care Act tax credit that's expiring soon. Danny Spiewak is digging deeper into that issue tonight as state leaders sound the alarm here in Minnesota.
Good morning, everyone. Doing something a little different today. With open enrollment starting later this fall, Governor Walz convened DFL lawmakers and state leaders Tuesday for a roundtable on health care.
Insurers are proposing the biggest rate hike since 2017.
Commerce Commissioner Grace Arnold blames some of the market instability on looming Medicaid cuts and uncertainty over an Affordable Care Act tax credit. An expansion of that credit for low to middle income families, first put in place in 2021, expires at the end of this year unless Congress acts.
That's support that many families depend on just to afford their monthly premiums.
MNsure, the marketplace serving Minnesota, says nearly 89,000 people across the state will pay more for coverage if the tax credits expire.
And over 19,000 will lose access to all financial help in 2026.
These tax credits have emerged as a key part of negotiations in Washington as Congress works to avoid a government shutdown at the end of September. With filibuster power in the Senate, Democrats insist that a measure to fund the government include an extension of the health care tax credits. But GOP Senate Majority Leader John Thune has said those discussions should wait until later in the fall.
I think that we are open to the conversation about what we do with the Obamacare premium tax credits. That's something in which members, Republican senators, and I think for that matter, Republican House members, have an interest as well.
At the Minnesota State Capitol, though, Democratic leaders urged quicker action.
Would you support congressional Democrats forcing a shutdown over that issue?
The Republican Party owns all 3 areas of this. It's their responsibility to pass a budget. What I would say is do not pass a budget that does not fix these egregious errors that are going to hurt Minnesotans.
Well, how are we doing this morning, Lynx fans? Yep. They are coming back from their first loss in the WNBA playoffs this morning. That is after a stunning comeback by the Phoenix Mercury. We have to give them credit, right? This is only the 5th 20-point comeback in the WNBA history. It was looking like the Lynx had it in the 3rd, but the Mercury, they picked up steam in the 4th, and then coming down to this 3-point shot from Sammy Whitcomb to send them into OT. Final score for this one was 89-83. The next 2 in this series will now be in Phoenix on Friday and Sunday. Big news for crafters out there. Joann's is coming back, kind of. The arts and crafts store Michaels is reviving the brand name Joann of its former competitor. Officials at Michaels say that it will have a knit and sew shop format with Joann signage at all of its locations in the U.S. and Canada. They will also start selling Joann's Big Twist yarn, which customers love. Michaels purchased Joann's intellectual property earlier this year, and it's part of the organization's first ever store with a store venture. The entire Joann selection will also be available online. Stay with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.